Um, so it's 5:32, Tuesday, June 30th. This is the Personnel and Policy Ad Hoc Committee. And I'll do the roll call, just acknowledge your presence. Fred Westcott. Dave Kelly. No Dave. John Butita.
Here.
Dorothy Red.
Here.
Angie Gorel.
Here.
And her dog. And Joe Hoffman.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 7th, 2020 meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Butita, second by Mr. Hoffman and Ms. Gorel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Item D, public comment. Mr. Chapman, do we have anybody with us today for public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will skip over that. Item E, discussion of selection of county administrator position. We have had the opportunity now to interview 2 candidates, and we did have discussion during our last meeting. Does anyone else have any other comments or information they want to share on what's gone on? I did send this morning the summary of the input that we received from the board members who are not part of this committee and the other countywide electeds and department heads. I don't know if everyone had a chance to review that. Lorraine and Michael, do you have anything that you want to share with the group based on the process?
I don't have anything additional.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nor do I, thank you.
Okay. Well, it appears that there's no other discussion required on the selection process. So with that, we'll move on to the item F. Recommendation of a county administrator candidate to the Personnel Policies Committee. I move that we recommend candidate 3 to the Personnel and Policies Committee. Do I have a second? Second by Mr.
Dorsey Red, second.
Ms. Red? Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Butita.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So along with this, our recommendation, is it necessary or incumbent upon us to mention that there's a likelihood or probability that the income for this particular candidate will exceed what we posted on the job interview? Should we include that along to the personnel committee, or just make that part of the topic when it gets there?
My opinion is that we would just let the Personnel and Policy Committee take up that subject. Anyone else have an opinion on that?
We just make our recommendation to our committee, and then they pass it on to our board. And I'm sure the board's going to ask us, but, you know, first of all, we have to get their permission to hire this person. Then we can discuss if that gets voted on to hire that person. Then I believe, and Mr. Kurlinkus can correct me, then I believe that we then start talking terms.
Right. We don't want to underestimate the abilities of our negotiating team. I'm sure they'll do a wonderful job.
That's right.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second is, I guess we're ready for the vote. All those in favor of recommending candidate 3 to the Personnel and Policies Committee to be hired as county administrator, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Are there any other matters for this committee today? Mr. Chapman and then Mr. Butita.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did speak to the chairman of the Personnel and Policies Committee today. And hello?
We hear you.
Okay, sorry. Anyhow, I did talk to him about the need for a meeting, and we came to a consensus that we would have a in-person meeting on Monday at 5:30 p.m. in room 303 to discuss this particular item before the caucuses.
Okay. Caucuses will be in person then this week?
I would presume so. I can't speak for them, but I think the chairman wanted to have a in-face meeting.
Okay. Mr. Butita and then Mr. Hoffman.
Okay, well, that answered my question. I guess, and now I'm thinking ahead to Monday. No, I'm not on the personnel committee, and because of the social distancing requirements, should we limit those attending the personnel committee just to those folks? Is that kind of how we're going to play this going forward, do you think?
How many people can that room hold and maintain social distancing, do you think? 10?
I would have to check that out, but I think it can hold more than 7, but because we've had more than 7 in there before. But I don't know in terms of the square footage and that. I'd have to check.
First of all, are we going to be doing our caucuses on Zoom on Monday night?
I don't know. Mr. Hoffman?
That was the same question I was going to ask. I'm trying to find out does anybody know what Keith's plan is? Has anybody talked to Keith?
No.
Because the last time, he wanted me to, separate him because he wanted to talk. I think that we should have a joint caucus simply because this is something where the biggest item we have is this. And it'd be easier to talk about all of us together instead of trying to do it separately. So I don't, if Keith's against that, that's okay. We can have our separate caucuses, but at this point, I would like to have a joint caucus, I think.
Well, can we meet in a different location? Go ahead, Mrs. Gorel.
It should all be on Zoom then.
I will pass that along to Mr. McDonald. We have half of the decision-making process here with us, so we just let Mr. McDonald know. And
Paul, when you pass that on to him, would you ask him, just to give me a call and so we can discuss it to see what he wants to do?
Absolutely. Okay. Was there any other comments or anybody else want to, oh, wait a second here. I see Dave Kelly had. Dave Kelly emailed me and he just said he was having trouble getting into the meeting, but I believe he's in favor of it also. I don't know if we can actually put that as part of the record, but he's on personnel and policy, so he'll have his opportunity to be heard there. Okay, are there any other matters for this committee? Mr. Butita.
Well, just one other thing, and I guess it would be good to know if we're talking about joint caucuses or multiple committees getting together in room 303, we really need to determine what the max is in that room. So
100.
I don't think we can do a joint caucus in 303 and maintain social distancing.
yeah, I don't think
different location.
so.
But I don't know. I mean, we talked, caucus is just recorded on our computer. Maybe we could do it at Memorial Hall, or we'll find a big room. There's got to be something, a big space somewhere in person. Otherwise, we have the Zoom option. I think Mr. McDonald and Mr. Hoffman will sort that out.
Thank you, Chairman. I was wondering even about the boardroom. If we spread out into the back of the room where the people come in and visit, spectators come in. I mean, we can. There's a lot of room if we spread out there, isn't there?
I agree with you. That's a great idea.
I
mean, that's what would be, in my thought is, oh, Mr. Klink is obviously has an answer.
Mr. Lincoln, you're not going to rain on our parade, are you?
Just a sprinkle. Just to let you know that the courts are using the county boardroom for order protection hearings on many of the afternoons, and they have used it on Monday afternoon. So there won't be even if they're done by 4 o'clock, there won't be time to clean that room down before you come in. Just to let you know that.
Okay. That's out.
Sounds like we're zooming.
Right. Mr. Chapman.
I guess the question is then, as I indicated, Mr. Fiducia wanted to have his meeting on Monday night at 5:30, and so I guess we need to talk to him about that in terms of having a Zoom meeting or not, because that would interfere with the caucuses after the meeting. So,
Well, I mean, I can bring my laptop and have the Zoom anyway. So, I'm fine either way. I'll let the chairmans decide how they want to do it.
May I speak?
Mrs. Goral, please go ahead.
Even on Zoom, we have a meeting before other meetings. Can't we have this caucus meeting earlier? And I mean, not our caucus, this meeting just prior to our caucus meeting at 5:30?
That's certainly possible, but it's Mr. Fiducia's call.
Does Mr. Fiducia know we have a caucus that night? That we have meetings?
No.
I guess that's a question we need to ask him.
Yes.
we'll try and sort it out. So.
Yeah, one way or another, we're going to get this done on Monday. So
Yes,
we'll
we are.
figure out the logistics.
I'm free earlier. I know Joe's free earlier. Mr. Butita, are you free earlier in the day?
Yes, I am.
And Mr. Kelly, Dorothy, Paul, you would be the only one if you have business that day.
Well, if we're doing it on Zoom, I can join in
Do
from
it any place.
Right.
So we're flexible of having it earlier, and Mr. Fiducia is probably more flexible than we are. So if we can do it earlier or just before our Zoom before our caucus meeting, then probably that's how we should do it and get it done with all that night. That should get done so that we can vote on it this coming week.
Okay. But I think ultimately none of these decisions are decisions for this committee, but they're issues that we do need to resolve. So we will make sure Mr. McDonald is aware of this issue and make sure Mr. Fiducia of this issue. And between them and Mr. Chapman, I'm sure we'll get it all sorted out. So with that, are there any other matters for this committee?
I just want, may I thank Lorraine and Michael for this, putting all these opinions together for us. They've been very strong all the way through the choice of who they would have. That was at the street and meets. And so thank you for putting together that even easier for us to make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Goral.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job throughout the process, and I appreciate it as well. Mr. Hoffman, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I also want to give a little shout out for Mr. Arena. This is second ad hoc committee. I've been on with him, and the guy does a wonderful job, works hard. I appreciate you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Double.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay.
Are you blushing, Paul?
Yeah. No, it's just sunstroke. It's so hot. Oh. I'm sorry, Ms. Red, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate everyone and the work that you've done.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so if there's no further matters for this committee, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Butita, second by Mr. Hoffman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Everybody have a good night.
You too. Aye.